Hi, guys. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you so much, Julie. It's an honor to be here. So, speaking of, okay, that's just a quote. I don't know. It never made sense to me, so I put it there just because I hope one day it'll make sense to somebody. I hope it makes sense to someone here at the moment. I just think it's a very odd and not very interesting quote. But that's the guy who said it. Okay, so that's me. Basically, I studied environmental engineering. I'm an anthropologist, supposedly, but then I kind of got into IT, really prefer computers, and I studied, a master's here in Belgium in business engineering. At the moment, I work as a SAP engineer. I work with Upside. I always have to put all the logos of the people that I like, just so you know them. So basically, that's my company, Upside, whom I work for at the moment. Super happy with them, so if you're looking for a job, And I run Amy Global Solutions, actually, which is also a tech company in Africa. Not to get into that, you can look it up. And I right now serve as the vice president for Gabeya. Gabeya is really amazing. It's one of our biggest success in Africa at the moment. Surprisingly, only 8 months old. You'll not believe it. So, moving on quickly. So, this is an interesting discussion for me, actually. I like to talk about Africa because it's a big, huge country. Just kidding. It's not, right? So really, we have the question of really, what can anyone learn from Africa? And when we talk about Africa, we tend to just box it all up into this little tiny package called a country, but it's not a country, it's a large continent, and we have over 53 countries in that continent, which, much like Europe, has very different cultures and very different values and different ways of doing business. So, as you know, our biggest hubs are in South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, of course, and Senegal. Now, I'm Nigerian, okay? So, just if you're wondering. So, really, I think that, when we talk about doing business in Africa, it's not just Africa, you have to pick a place. I imagine a lot of you already know, about doing business in Africa as a continent. But really, when it comes down to it, there are several different countries within that continent. Now, so I always like to do this little slide because it's important for me. Africa is important. When people talk about Africa, we like to, I make lots of money in Africa. I love going to Africa, Even as an African, there's lots of things to do there. There's lots of businesses, and that's actually the only continent that really inspires me to make money. When I'm here, I kind of know that I have to pay taxes and stuff. But, when I'm there, I'm just like, all right, this is it. This is your only chance to actually be rich. So, when you tell me that, it's full of needy people, I completely agree. But remember, there's 1 billion people. When you have 1 billion people, of course, there are some needy people. It's normal. But Africa, it's not a social continent, okay? We like to make money. So if you want to make money, you go there, okay, or don't. But it's not really that you must, as an entrepreneur, have a social idea in order to go to Africa. This is not, who we are or what we represent. But of course, it's a lot of people in that continent. So you will have very different things going on at very different points. So there are some people who are interested in some stuff. I will explain to you in just a few short minutes. But really, we don't necessarily all live in the slums. There's not that many these days if you go to really entrepreneurship hub. Maybe I'm just super tech focused, but then again, maybe everyone should be. So really, if you think about Africa, what I think you should have in mind is that there are highly innovative, very bold entrepreneurs who are taking really big steps. You should understand that we're also skipping, really skipping, they call it leapfrog these days, past, old, boring infrastructure, going onto the mobile first. If you think about technical capacities, we're like hackers, Everyone's just hacking because there's no rules, right? When there are no rules, they're a really amazing game. So, so when I think about Africa, I think, it's ripe, yes, but it's not just waiting for you to conquer, okay? So don't assume that Africans are not there protecting it this time. So, next interesting point that I want to talk about here, because I imagine this is why I was invited. So we're done with my little speech. Now focus on really, what do you need as a Belgian entrepreneur, I guess, for success in Africa. Now, when you talk about, Belgium, you have very different ways of doing things. I've been here for almost 2 years, and I still don't get it completely. Now, when I say Africa, please understand that I just use that for convenience. And as I mentioned earlier, it's very different countries in one continent. So if I tell you how it works in Ethiopia, don't try it in Tanzania, even though it's next door. It's not going to work, probably. So just keep that in mind. And, try to learn a bit more, because I don't have time. So, first things. So this is where I kind of brought my notes, because it's a little important to understand. We have low overheads. And, by that, it means that the cost of living, as we all probably know, it's much cheaper. You can get lands for less money. You can get employees for less money. You can get, there's just, people don't expect you to give them bonuses. You don't have to pay them the tax to pay the tax. So when you think about going into Africa to do business, this is already just such an excellent incentive for you as a businessman. You don't want to pay so much. So when you think about being a startup, because I imagine that's, kind of the interest right now when you think, okay, I'm a startup, I want to go into Africa. What is my biggest fear? Investment in employees, in starting up. Well, Africa is excellent for this because you have very low overheads. And my second favorite, I like to talk about the hacker's ethos. When you think about the hacker's ethos, it's that, Africans are coders, like really mad developers. You're not going to believe it. But actually, we have the Google Developers Group. It takes place, it's the hugest community that you'll find in Africa. It means that they have a lot of coders. So you can actually get developers for free, by the way, which is, a good thing. But I mean, pay them, it's almost free for you. So, when you think about, the thing about being a hacker, it's that you can actually, make things. The rules are less or barely there. And when you think about somebody who's a hacker, it's a person that really didn't go to Ivy League, school. They learned themselves. So when you think about learning how to code yourself, it means that you're really motivated. You have the passion for it, and you really want it. And I think that's actually what makes, going there so great, especially if you are in tech. And I'm a little bit tech-focused here with my presentation. There's a lot of agriculture and all kind of stuff going on. But, because I'm in IT, it's better to do my business. So with hackers, you can get them for free. You can get people that are motivated. You see a lot of passion, and it works all the time. So this is one of the things. The other thing is that there is access to funding, and it's kind of a little bit interesting, because of course, us being here right now with the King Foundation makes it even more interesting because. When you think about access to funding, it's not just VC money. We talk about, we need to raise capital, we need this and that, but there are lots of foundations that are ready to invest in you to go to Africa and start a business. So that's already, in fact, an incentive to go there. So, when I think about, okay, why should you as a Belgian startup pick up your bags and go to Africa? There's lots of reasons, including the fact that you probably get more money from more sources that are not just VC. People are interested in the social aspect. Even though I think it's not necessary, you can just say you want to make money, it's okay. No one cares. But okay, if you want to be social, be a little bit social and, make money. Actually, recently I was in Paris last week, and I was talking to an investor, and she told me, why are you calling yourself a social entrepreneur? You're not a social entrepreneur. Women always say this because you're afraid to say you want money. I'm like, okay, I'm not a social entrepreneur anymore, okay. Anyway, so I think that, that's a good reason to go to Africa already. You get access to funding. You can lie about it or not. It's your concern. But, you have a lot of options. How can you actually get money? And, there are fewer restrictions. So, again, I was talking about how Africa is a bit like a frontier, Kind of think about the Wild West when everyone was kind of going there for gold. Well, now you don't have to go for gold, you can just go for entrepreneurship, straight up, tech stuff, agricultural, cocoa, whatever is your business, Africa is the frontier for you. And, you don't have to really worry about, what kind of rules, because right now there are no rules. The rules are still being made up. So, as a startup, the greatest part of anything really is that you don't have to worry about making rules just to go, you don't have to worry about how do they do it. Except for Ethiopia, just to be careful. You see, again, I told you. In Ethiopia, they have rules, okay? They don't play. They're the real Africa, in fact, you know, they maintain their stuff. So don't just go to Ethiopia. I mean, you could go to Kenya, you have a lot of things going on. I will tell you quickly later. Let me just move on. So there's another thing about Africa that's really exciting. Sorry, this little note. Anyway, so you have very few legacy technology. Again, we go back to, you know, the leapfrog thing. You know, so the majority of Africa has, you know, really lagged behind the rest of the world when we talk about technical infrastructure, you know. So until recently, you know, things are changing. So the added benefit of really, you know, going into the continent is that you don't have to worry about existing industry technology. I mean, Google is present these days a lot, you know, Microsoft and all the big businesses, but they're here as well. So everyone knows you have to worry about the big shark. But as an entrepreneur, you have very little to worry about when it comes to, okay, I go. And when you're in Africa, you can always see everything is wrong. Like I mean, not wrong, but it doesn't work just so organized. So you can really, in fact, have a business idea just between the airport and your hotel destination, because there's something to be done. So it's really like, you know, one of those places where everything is not so functional. And when things aren't so functional, it gives you a moment to really, in fact, come up with something that, you know, that's functional and interesting, and you can make money. So that's the best part, right? You know. So anyway, the lack of legacy, as I said, opens door to not only startups, but it's very easy, you know, to be competitive globally. And, you know, again, we are an emerging economy. Everyone says that all the time, but it's really true, you know, so let's say that again. So now the favorable exchange rate. I don't know, when I put this up, it made sense, but honestly, it's not that favorable, you know, so let's just skip past that. And then let's talk about the hunger. You know, Africans, you know, one of the things I think as a Belgian entrepreneur you can really learn from an African startup is that they're hungry. Hungry, and I mean literally hungry. And when you're literally hungry and you know that your business means money to eat, to feed your family, you essentially function differently. You're more motivated. You stay the cost and you make money. And this is something that I don't really see here, you know. So I feel like when you go to Africa, you have the opportunity to learn how to be hungry as an entrepreneur. So, you know, what's in it for you? Well, in Belgium, you have really a lot of fintech. And, you know, you can look up the statistics a little bit. But, you know, as an entrepreneur, you have the opportunity to, you know, go into fintech. Mobile technology is, you know, really one of the fastest growing sector for us. And if you go to Kenya, if you go to, you know, Nigeria, you can see CC Hub. You see, if you know anything about M-Pesa, you can Google that. It's really what we are good at. And I think it's what Belgium is actually quite good at. So when you go into Africa, there's lots of opportunities for you to collaborate with other African startups. So, you know, take that part seriously. Now, understanding the ecosystem, it matters a lot. So I think this is also another big part. You know, when you're working on the continent, it can be really fun and rewarding, but you have to understand that your restrictions will not work. So keep plan A to Z always handy, but Z is better for you because A to Y will never work. So this is something, you can take a picture of it because I'm gonna leave you. But the pillars of entrepreneurship that I think you should always learn when you go on the continent really is all of this. Because nothing works the way that you think it does. And you have to understand that adaptation, agility, all of these are really important. So please understand each of this. So Z is your number, well, your letter, whatever. But really understand, you know, agile, adaptation, you know, chaos, it's your friend. I mean, it's amazing for any startup. So here where you don't have the opportunity to be chaotic, there you do. So take it and find me and keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Khadijat.